November is National Home Care Palliative and Hospice Month, and we have a proclamation, and I would like for Kawani Stuckey, Tiffany Anderson, Chad Sintel, and Lance Lee. Are y'all in? Please come up. If you would stand before here, and I would ask Mr. City Attorney if you would read the proclamation when they get up, if you would. Hello. Welcome. Just stand right in front of that podium. Thank you, sir. Thank y'all for coming.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Whereas 90% of Americans want to age in place, and home care is the preferred method of health care delivery among the disabled, elderly, and chronically ill individuals eager to live independently in their own homes as long as they possibly can. And whereas home care services allows families to stay together and provide for greater health, dignity, and comfort in our communities. And whereas home care in the U.S. is a growing alternative to hospitalization or other institution-based forms of health care for acute and chronic illnesses, providing care to millions of Americans each year. And whereas 2 million everyday heroes, including home care nurses, therapists, and aides, will travel almost 1 billion miles to deliver care and work tirelessly to provide professional support to millions of Americans in need of quality health services. And whereas these dedicated home care professionals and volunteers form a support network that continues to play a vital role in the healthcare delivery for our nation's disabled, infirm, and aging population. And whereas Expect Care, along with the National Association for Home Care and Hospice and thousands of home care and hospice agencies across the U.S. have declared the month of November as National Home Care Palliative and Hospice Month and are calling on all Americans to observe these occasions with appropriate ceremonies and activities. Now, therefore, I, Frank V. Bricado, Mayor of Hoover, do hereby proclaim November as National Home Care Palliative and Hospice Month in Hoover, Alabama, and encourage the support and participation of all citizens in learning more about the home care and hospice concepts of care for the elderly, disabled, and infirm.
Well, thank y'all very much. I would not be surprised if most everyone in the audience has not used the services of hospice, of palliative care, and you definitely are heroes to many, many families. Thank you for what you do. And we are to the part of our program where we would like to recognize our employees that have reached milestones. Tonight we have firefighters here, as a matter of fact, that we'll start with our 20-year recipient. That is Michael Coleman. Mike, come up if you would stand in front of just right in front of that little, thank you. Mike comes from a long line of firefighters. His dad is here, his uncles, I don't know how far back they go, Mike, but it's a bunch of them. His mom, Joy, is here. Shannon, his wife, is here for 29 years. Morgan is Morgan Davis, and his son-in-law, Will, and Hannah, his daughter, and Elza Dean. Is that correct? Son-in-law, and Stephen Coleman, son here. Mike comes from a family of public service. They're nurses, they're firefighters. His mom and daddy and his whole family, they raised him to serve the citizens of the various cities that they've worked for, and he's a great example of a public servant. What a fine man Michael Coleman is. Worked for Birmingham Fire Department for many, many years, retired there, and during that time he actually worked for us part-time, and when he retired from Birmingham, came over and started full-time with us, and we landed a great person when we got Mike Coleman to come to the city of Hoover, and we appreciate all that he does, the experience that he brings, the compassion that he brings, and how he takes care of folks. The men and women that work with him are proud to stand side by side with him each and every day. and we are too. Thank you so much. You want your family to come up and take the picture? Whoever wants to come up, can? Anybody want to come up? Just get somebody on this side to come up. And next we have firefighter Ray Burns with 25 years. Ray, come down if you would. Ray started his career in Hoover in November of 1996 and worked at Station 4 and spent 21 years. That's our busiest fire station. And during his career, he's worked at Station 7, Station 3, and now he works at Station 9 as an apparatus operator, and he's on our technical rescue team and our dive team. And I'll tell you, we didn't have a technical rescue team or a dive team. And when we started that, Ray was stepped up and has been a part of that for many, many years and helped us develop one of the best in the state of Alabama, and has been on many deployments, not just in the state, but in other states as well. Just an outstanding guy. He's a great cook, by the way. I've had some of his food. He does a great job. Just a fine individual, somebody that we're proud to have working for the city of Hoover. And I look forward to Ray giving us another 25 years. Thank you so much. Michael Brandon Etheridge. Chief, come up if you would. Brandon was hired in 1996 and signed to Engine 2. He later transferred to Station 1, Engine 1, and spent several years there as a plugman and a nosman, and he was promoted to lieutenant and moved out to Station 7 out in Inverness before returning to Station 4. He was promoted to captain, was assigned there at Station 2, and he spent a little over 2 years there. In 2010, Brandon was promoted to the rank of battalion chief, and he served in that role until he was promoted to the current rank of assistant chief in 2017. He is actually the first full-time assistant chief that the city of Hoover's ever had, and that's quite an honor, and he's quite an outstanding individual. Just really, really, really soft-spoken, doesn't say a whole lot, but he's just a really bright individual that has developed so many different programs for us. The technical rescue team, he's led that. The dive team, he developed that for us. Actually went on a dive not too long ago when we had these terrible floods that hit the city. He's also part of our SWAT team. He's a tactical medic where they go out and respond with our police officers when they're involved in a very difficult situation where they have to bring in the SWAT team. He acts as a paramedic supporting that unit. But just somebody that we can go to and we can rely on him for everything. He just does an outstanding job. Volunteers at Warrior as well, has been part of that department for many, many years. And I just can never really say enough about Brandon. I've always appreciated his attitude, his work habits, his ethics, all very good. And are just so proud that you are part of the Hoover Fire Department. "25 years of service. Andrew Heron. Andy, come on up. Andy's here tonight with with Leanne, his wife, and his mom, Ava. And Andy was born and raised in Bluff Park, so he's a Hoover guy. He knows the territory around here, that's for sure. He's run these streets since he was a little boy. His first exposure to the fire department, he saw, the Bluff Park back then, the Bluff Park Fire Department, respond to an apartment fire off of Tyler Road, and he knew right then. How old were you when that happened, Andy? You remember? Just a youngster.
Probably about
10 or 11. And he saw that, and he knew that day what he wanted to do, and that was to be a firefighter. And he came to work. First, he started at Cahaba Heights, and then he had a tour at Rocky Ridge and Center Point, and came to Hoover in 1996. He joined, he's also part of our SWAT team, our SRT SWAT medic that I mentioned a while ago. He's been that for 18 years, a lot of experience in that area. He transferred to Station 5 in 99 and was assigned to Engine 5 and Rescue 41. He is a paramedic as well. After 10 years, he transferred to Station 3 as a nozzleman. Then he was promoted to lieutenant and went out to Inverness and worked there for a few years. And now he's back at Fire Station 3 serving as a lieutenant. Andy also works on our EAC, and that is a group of employees that come together, and it's an opportunity for the mayor's office to interact with the employees as they have different issues that they want to bring forward. And we've developed some great things together and a great relationship, and Andy's been the president 2 different terms. We appreciate everything that he does, and thank you for your service. He's a great dancer, too. I've seen him dance a few times, and your wife's better, but he's really a pretty good dancer. Congratulations, Andy. And 25 years, Jeffrey Craig Sulser. Craig, come on up if you would. Craig is here tonight with his wife Maria, son Tristan, and his mom Pat. Again, the son of a firefighter. And he's had it in his blood too. He's been with Hoover since 1996. He started rookie school in 1996, and he worked at Station 1 for 12 years. And in 2009, he was promoted and assigned to Fire Station 6 out on the western side of town. He worked there 9 years, and then he returned to Station 1 for a year, and then back out to Greystone and worked out there for a year. He's been working in our fire marshal's office as a fire inspector. He did that since June of 2020, but he took the test and came out number 1, and now he is a newly promoted district captain. So congratulations to you on your new promotion. But Craig is a fine individual, just someone that everyone in the department respects. They enjoy working with him. Very mild-mannered, calm on any situation that you put in front of him. He's a true public servant, and we're so proud that he's part of the city of Hoover, and congratulations on your 25 years. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mayor. Now I'd like to call on Mr. Rice for his update on our flood report, please.
Thanks, Mr. President. First, before they get out of the room, I want to express how much pain I feel seeing people like Andy and Craig and Brandon get 25 years in. Mostly the pain is in my back and my knees because I remember when they were all rookies and now they can leave us. So that's kind of painful to think about. We've made great progress, and Madam Clerk, I don't have the clicker if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. We've made great progress over the last 2 weeks, excuse me, since we talked about this. We've received an increased number of public projects. You'll see on the agenda, Mr. Reeves will come and he'll present another round of issues that have opened up for us that need some attention. We did receive an additional 33 reports of private property damage, so that's up to 385 individual cases. You can go to the next one, please. Thank you. We did have a FEMA delegation on the ground last week, and they toured around with state and county EMA representatives as well as city staff. We think that they gathered a lot of additional documentation. Our understanding is that that now goes to FEMA Region 4 in Atlanta, and if it's favorably reviewed there, comes back to Governor Ivey's desk, which we anticipate would receive her signature, and then goes to the president's desk for the possible federal declaration. So again, that one, just by way of a reminder, there are channels of assistance that will be open with or without a declaration, but they change favorably if the disaster is federally declared. So we're tracking that process and we'll educate people accordingly. And that'll involve not only social media and mail outs to affected addresses, but also some town halls. And we anticipate FEMA would actually open a temporary field office at a city facility and be available for people to come in, make an appointment, sit down. It's things that can be done online, but sometimes it's cumbersome and might be better to be able to talk to a case worker and get that process done. So we want to continue to encourage people to remember that FEMA will only compensate for uninsured loss. And I know we've had some questions, and I think people have felt, well, why should I have to file an insurance claim on something? Well, if you have insurance and you don't file the claim, our understanding is FEMA will reject the claim. So it's very important as we talk to constituents, we help them understand we don't have an opinion on that. That's just the way it is. So we want to be sure that people position themselves for being able to access FEMA assistance once that opens up. And also, as always, we want people to think about only using properly licensed and bonded and insured contractors. Unfortunately, it's times like this that we see people show up from near and far, sometimes from very far, with ill intent and the idea to come in and exploit citizens at their really great time of need. And we just want to remind people, if the price is too good to be true, it is. And please check and make sure that they're properly licensed through our building inspections department, our revenue department, and that they're who they say they are and they can do what they say they can do. Next one, please. So we've completed assessments on all 27 of the public projects that we're aware of right now. You'll see a dramatic increase in the number of private damage assessments that have been done. That's up by 280 since the last time we visited. We've now completed 332 of the 385 reports that we have. That's directly attributable to your support in allowing us to bring in third-party contracted assistance. There's just no way we were going to get that done that quickly. So we thank you very much for that. We think that's making a real difference for citizens, and we think that it'll position them all to be potentially more successful with the FEMA assistance process. Next slide, please. This slide hopefully will go away after this report. We've continued to pick up flooding-related debris. This is non-vegetation. This is the furniture and the carpet and padding and things that were damaged as a result of the flood. We're running the same capacity that we were 2 weeks ago. We've shifted, as you can see, some different areas of emphasis over the last couple of weeks. We think we've gotten a handle on this. Every now and then we see some sporadic things still brought to the curb that were probably flooding related, but we can handle that with our normal debris collection process. So I think that we've largely shifted back to vegetation, which got backed up. I know several of you heard from constituents. We've heard from people, when are you coming to get my limbs? And the answer was, as soon as we get your neighbor's possessions that they had to put out on the street. So we think we've shifted back nicely to that mode, and I don't know that we'll have to report on flooding debris in 2 weeks. Next slide, please. On the currently authorized public projects, we have 16. These numbers have shifted very nicely. We've only got one that is still pending some repair estimates, and that's the one at Star Lake. We have 8 that are underway, which means the contract's been awarded and the contractor's been released to do the work. And we have 7 that have already completed, so they're moving very nicely. And then the next slide is the detailed list, and you can tell by the color coding, everything in yellow is completed. The one in gray or blue is Star Lake Drive, where the road shoulder failed. And then the 8 in green are the ones that are either physically being worked on or the contractor's been authorized to commence work. Last slide, please. And this is the current status of the financial impact. Now, this is prior to the 2 agenda items that you'll hear in a few minutes. Mr. Reeves will present an additional list, and then I'll be back with a budget amendment to help pay for that. But we currently have slightly over $2 million appropriated by you, and of that, approximately almost $1.8 million has been allocated. So it's either been paid out or it's been encumbered for projects that are about to be completed. And then on the contracted engineering service, all of that money, the $309,000, has been encumbered. So they're doing the work, and we'll start to draw payments soon on that. And then the last number is shifted, I think, by about $10,000. That's the overtime that's involved in the effort. I think it was about $26,000 immediately after the storm, and it's incrementally gone up by about $10,000 as we still have engineering personnel and some public works personnel out late and on weekends doing some associated duties. So with that, I'd take any questions, and then I wanted to talk about Thursday night's public meeting if we could.
Any member have a question for Mr. Rice based on what we've heard tonight thus far? All right, Mr. Rice.
Thank you. So Thursday night will be the public meeting on the Green Valley Drainage Study. It'll be in these chambers at 6 p.m. Thursday night. Just by way of reminder, that study commenced probably a year ago. It was not related to the October 6th flooding event. It was from different areas that we had identified that had some repeated drainage issues. The meeting Thursday night is specific to that study. So basically, the third-party engineer has gone through and done an analysis of those drainage basins. They've come in with suggested repairs, and they've delineated what is in public right-of-way or public easements and what is on private property. So we'll be able to show people on the screens and then provide people a copy if they'd like to take one with them of those results. We will not have things like repair timelines and which contractor is going to do the work. That's the next phase. We had to get to this phase to find out what the suggested repairs were. We'll be back to you as a body asking for authorization to begin to address those public repairs that are identified. And then we'll be providing that engineering work to any property owner that wishes to have it so that they'll have a proper analysis done, and they can then begin to formulate cost estimates and prepare to move forward on private property as well.
Very good. We look forward to Thursday night. Any questions about that from the members? Very good, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. I'd like to call on Councilman Clinton. It's my understanding you have a special guest in the chambers you'd like to recognize, please.
Yes, I do. A good friend of mine, Rabbi Levi Wambam. He represents the Chabad of Alabama. He's here to make a proposal about having a menorah here in Hoover. 2,000. Go ahead, Rabbi.
First of all, thank you so much for having me come here tonight. And before we start, I have a special gift to give to everyone.
hungry.
Like it says, every good meeting should start with breaking of some bread, so I just wanted to give you some bread to break. As I'm here tonight, we have started a project with a lot of other city halls having a Hanukkah menorah, either by their city hall or a good location, or wherever a nice Christmas tree is, to celebrate all the holidays, as it's a beautiful holiday season, to give that chance to everyone in the city to celebrate the holidays. As we just heard from our guest, the great need the city of Hoover needs to look at right now of the flooding. We came up with a proposal that we sent to the mayor last week about giving Alona a menorah this year instead of the project that we have that I've given in front of you that hopefully next year we can discuss. But this year to just find the location and have a menorah put up, and Chabad of Alabama will take care of everything from putting up the menorah, putting up the sign, and everything else that's needed.
Very good. Thank you very much, Rabbi, for being here. Any member have a question for the rabbi?
Rabbi, what other cities have you had so far join this cause?
At the moment, City of Vestavia has purchased their own menorah and doing a grand menorah lighting. Homewood has purchased a menorah and doing a grand menorah lighting. We have 2 menorah lightings in the city of Birmingham, one at the Summit and one at UAB. So that's so far.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, Rabbi. Appreciate your presence. I'd like to recognize a couple of guests tonight. We have always good representation from the Hoover Chamber of Commerce. Our Executive Director, Ms. Tony Herrera-Bast, is here tonight. Tony, welcome. And with her is a member of the Board of Directors for the Chamber, Ms. Kimberly Jackson. Kimberly, welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. We'll now move to our regular agenda. We did not have a work session on Thursday night of last week due to the Veterans Day holiday. City offices were closed, so the council opted to close as well. So we will walk through each of these items without a consent agenda, and we will talk about those as we get to them. I would remind our visitors that before we take a vote, we always ask for public comment. You're welcome to come and comment about that particular item that is before the council. Any item you wish to speak about that's not on the agenda can come during regular public comments at the end of the evening. We'll begin with item number 6, and that's approval of the minutes.
Mr. President, I move for approval of the minutes without reading.
Second. We have a motion and second for approval of the minutes. Any questions or comments from the members? Any from the audience? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 7 is resolution number 658821. Mr. Corley.
This resolution establishes the Healthcare Authority of the City of Hoover.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 658821.
Second. We have a motion and a second. I know we've talked about this at a previous meeting, although this is a resolution, doesn't require a first and second reading. Mr. Rice is prepared to talk about that tonight. I know the members are aware of the work to establish this healthcare authority. Are there any questions specifically about the resolution any members have? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 8 is resolution number 6591-21. Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes Mayor Brocato to enter into an agreement with Motorola.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6591-21.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Cope, would you come forward, please, and brief us on this item?
Evening, Council, Mr. President. This is an annual agreement between the city and Motorola for the radio systems that dispatch, police, and fire use.
I'm sure what you said was incredibly important, but I was on another conversation. Any questions or comments for Moose?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 9 is resolution 6592-21. Mr. Corley.
This resolution reappoints Hal Humphrey to the Library Board of the City of Hoover.
Motion to approve resolution number 6592-21.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Councilman Middlebrooks has recommended the reappointment of Mr. Humphrey. Any questions for Dr. Middlebrooks on that item? Any questions or comments from the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 10, Resolution 659321, Mr. Corley.
This resolution appoints Mitzi Eaker to the Library Board of the City of Hoover.
Motion to approve resolution 6593-21.
Second. We have a motion and second. Any questions or comments on this item? Any questions or comments from members of the public? I think it's a great idea. Thank you, sir. Hearing and seeing only that one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the resolution passes.
I'll do it after the next.
Councilman Middlebrooks, would you like to recognize Ms. Eaker, please?
Ms. Eaker, if you don't mind standing up, thank you for agreeing to your service.
Congratulations, Ms. Eaker, and thank you for your willingness to serve. Item number 11 is Resolution 6594-21, Mr. Corley.
This resolution appoints Lori Martin to the Library Board of the City of Hoover.
Motion to approve resolution number 6594-21.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from members? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries.
Ms. Martin, would you mind standing and being recognized? And thank you for your service.
Ms. Martin, welcome to the Library Board. We're glad to have you. Item number 12 is a Resolution 659521, Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes Mayor Brocato to execute an application for the Alabama Transportation Rehabilitation and Improvement Program.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6595-2.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Reeves, welcome, and tell us about this item, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ladder, Council. This resolution is to authorize the mayor to execute an A-Trips application with ALDOT. This application is to assist with the construction and CE&I costs associated with a right turn lane project at Alabama Highway 150 and Whisperwood Lane. If awarded, the A-Trips grant would cover the estimated construction cost at approximately $482,000. The grant's 100% grant, excluding any overruns that might occur in the project.
Very good. Any questions or comments from Mr. Reeves?
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Reeves, can you tell me how far the lane will extend towards the South Shades Crest intersection? It won't go all the way to the light.
No, sir, it will not. And the actual engineering is already completed on this project, so I can forward you those plans if you would like to see that.
I just remember before we widened it, the lane extended all the way, and there's an issue with people merging at the last minute.
Yes, sir, this one will
Glad to
not
hear.
extend
Thank
all
you.
the way. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Middlebrooks. Any other questions or comments from the council? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Mr. Reeves, stay tight with us. Item number 13, Resolution 659621, Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares certain needed repairs to city properties as an emergency and authorizes such emergency repairs to those properties as listed in Exhibit 1.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6596-21.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Reeves, Mr. Rice spoke about this a few minutes ago, so tell us a little bit more about it.
Yes, sir, as Mr. Rice said, these are 11 additional projects that we've asked to be included in the emergency funding for this. First one is Sierra Drive. There's several damages to the shoulder and the under drain pipe at that location, and we'll be repairing that. Cahaba River Estates, there was a sinkhole there located adjacent to the CarMax and Walmart driveway. That $5,000 is to help cover the cost to repair that. Preserve Parkway, we have damages to the shoulder, the sidewalk, and a storm pipe going down the hill. You'll have to bear with me on that location because it's right next to the preserve, so it's hard to give you an exact location, but I've got pictures of it if anyone would like to see it. South Sanders Road, there's also damages adjacent to the Campbell Lake there that we need to repair in the road and the shoulder. Fire Station 4 drainage ditch, there's some cleanup and shoulder repairs we need to do there as well. We anticipate doing that work with our Public Works Department so we can turn that around pretty fast. The Howard Lake Spillway adjacent to City Hall here, The floodwaters did overtop the spillway and dam there, so there's some erosion issues on the backside of that dam that we need to address. That's the request for that funding. We have 4 requests for several pump stations that were damaged during the flooding. One's Pump Station 4 for the River Chase plant, Pump Station 8 and 12. And we also had some damages to the fuel transfer pump located at the treatment plant. The last one is on Chapel Road. There's a sinkhole adjacent to the sidewalk there going up the hill that we need to repair.
Any questions for Mr. Reeves?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
On the South Sanders Road, I know you guys did some pavement work out there. Is this related to that or completely separate?
Yes, sir, it is. And may have not been the right venue. We actually went ahead and did those repairs with our Public Works Department, and this funding is to cover those costs associated with that.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public? Yes, sir. If you wouldn't mind, sir, if you'd come down to the podium, we'd appreciate very much the opportunity to get your name and address just for our records.
Matt Winther, 5481 Scout Creek Drive. $60,000 repair is the most expensive repair up there. It's on Preserve Parkway. Where specifically is that?
Again, it doesn't have a specific address. It's just located adjacent to the preserve going down. Like I said, I may have I have the coordinates in a picture, but to tell you exact, because it's adjacent to the preserve, there's no address on it. So it is in the right of way.
My question there is that's not a very old development, and there's all sorts of road problems on the preserve because it wasn't Preserve Parkway because it wasn't built very well to start with. I know the city had to basically force U.S. Steel to repave Preserve Parkway. So my question is, should some portion of this repair be the responsibility of U.S. Steel or the developer of the preserve?
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments from the public? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Item number 14, resolution number 659721. Mr. Corley.
This resolution amends the budget for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2022, as shown on Exhibit A.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6597-21.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Rice.
Thank you, sir. So it's just a 2-line budget amendment to cover the repairs that Mr. Reeves just talked about. It'll be divided among 2 different accounts, $26,000 from the 501, which is the sewer repair fund or the sewer operating fund, and $134,000 from the 214 account, which is the stormwater account. So I think there were 4 enumerated repairs on sewer infrastructure. They'll be paid out of the appropriate account, and then everything else comes out of stormwater.
Any questions for Mr. Rice? Any comments from the public? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion and second for approval of the resolution. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nays? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 15, resolution number 6570-21. Mr. Corley.
This resolution grants conditional use approval for home daycare for property located at 3599 Deerfield Drive.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 6570-21.
Second.
We have a slow motion and a second. Mr.
Sorry
Martin.
about that, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President. Of course, this comes with a positive recommendation from the Planning Commission in their October meeting. They recommended approval with the conditions attached in the exhibit.
Any questions for Mr. Martin?
Mr. President, my tardiness in making the motion was I wanted to make sure that I had the conditions up. This is something that was brought before Planning and Zoning passed unanimously, I believe, Mr. Rice. We have a lot of home businesses that form around the city, and a couple of us had positive things to say to the applicant for actually bringing us their plan first and doing it the right way. It should only be 5 total.
We've got 5 total children.
Right. So in my mind, it was, as we looked at it in planning and zoning, it was consistent with, when we talk about businesses and neighborhoods and home businesses and things, it's relatively consistent with a residential use. I mean, you could have a residence with that many children there. I think the only concern would be traffic in the morning, but 4 of those children, I believe, are actually one of the 5 is one of the owner's children, so we're talking about 4 children staying at a house during the day, and so I think the commission looked on that favorably. I voted yes. I know we've received some concern from the neighborhood, but again, to me, this is consistent with a residential use, and the applicant has just come forward to say, hey, we're doing this. This is what we'd like to do, and this is how we'll do it. And so I just commend the applicant for doing it the right way instead of just setting up shop like happens in so many cases. Is the applicant here tonight?
I believe so.
Okay.
And to add to Mr. Shaw, the ordinance amendment requiring conditional use is relatively new for home-based daycares. It's only been in place for a couple of years now. So that's why this is coming before you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Any questions or comments
Mr.
on
President,
this item? Yes, sir.
is there any sort of background checks or anything that occurs with home daycare licenses? Can anyone speak on that process?
Ma'am, would you mind coming down and just allowing us to maybe inquire just about the process it took to set it up from at least a regulatory perspective?
Good evening. Yes, so first of all, it's zoning, of course. After zoning, the fire marshals come, and that's when you go into DHR. And after the fire marshal, you do have a background check. Whoever gonna be involved that's watching the kids, you have a background check. And then after that process, they go and, after the background check, DHR, they also come in and they inspect your house and make sure it's coded correctly. Certifications have to go, every so often. Well, it's yearly certifications, but you also have to get certified monthly for different things. So yeah, everybody that's involved, which is only myself, but yes, sir, you have to have a background check.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Ms. Rouser, while you're up here, I'll just reiterate what I said at the planning and zoning. Thank you for going through the approval process and doing all the things that you've done to be a legit business and requesting this type of business in the city in the right way. So thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Very good. Any other questions from the public? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the resolution passes. Congratulations. Item number 16 is a resolution number 6569-21. Mr. Corley.
This resolution grants conditional use approval for a dog daycare for property located at 2153 Clearbrook Road.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6569-21.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Martin.
Yes, Mr. President, this too comes to you from the Planning Commission with a positive recommendation with the conditions attached in the exhibit.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Martin?
Mr. President, I got one.
Yes, sir.
Did we ever get pictures or photos of where the outdoor run will be?
Yes, the outdoor run area is going to be on the east side of the building. So the side facing Tyler Road, that side of the building. And roughly the eastern 2/3 of the building will make up the space that this business locates in. You'll still have the western third of the building for Hoover Fitness, I believe is the name of the business that's there. They are right sizing into that smaller space. And so the eastern 2/3 of the building will house this business. The outdoor play area will be to the east of that. So it'll be taking up some of the parking lot that is around on the side of the building.
Any other questions? Any comments from members of the public on this item? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. We'll now move to several items that we will only have a first reading on tonight. There will be no action taken at this meeting. However, we will meet again on December 6th for a second reading and possible vote, beginning with item number 17, Resolution 659021. Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares for an abatement of a nuisance due to weeds and/or grass on the property located at 2240 Tyler Road.
Mr. Martin.
Mr. President, this particular piece of property is an abandoned home. It is heavily overgrown. We have received complaints from neighbors and, of course, went through the nuisance declaration process. And so now we are moving on to the abatement process for first reading, and then we'll anticipate second reading. And chances are we will have to abate this one. It's a repeat customer.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Martin?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I know we were talking about, and you brought pictures for the last time. Do we know who owns the home, or is it completely unknown?
We do know who the owner is. I don't have that in front of me at this time, but I can get that to you if you'd like.
This is not important. I just wondered if there was we were looking forward to possibly an issue on the home as well, as you start cutting back up there and really looking at the property, if there's issues with the home that would require another revisiting of that. I don't know. I mean,
at this time, in meeting with our code enforcement staff, they've not mentioned anything about the building itself being considered unsafe or insecure from the code that they are looking at, but from property maintenance standpoint. But the property itself is in really bad shape.
cool, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Posey. Any other questions for Mr. Martin? Okay, we'll move to item number 18. It's my understanding, Mr. Martin, that there's a request to withdraw that ordinance.
That's correct, Mr. President. There is no need for this rezoning ordinance at this time.
Very good. Entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we withdraw ordinance number 21-2546.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for withdrawal of ordinance number 21-2546. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the ordinance is withdrawn. We'll move to item number 19, resolution number 656821. Mr. Martin.
Yes, Mr. President, this is being altered as well, the conditional use request. As I mentioned at our last time gathering, the Planning Commission voted to recommend favorably the event venue that is the subject of this application. There was a plan produced for the Planning Commission at the time to take a look at to handle parking. Since that time, the applicant has come up with a different way in which they would like to address the parking, and this will be considerably lower impact than what we were looking at before, where a new parking lot was to be constructed on a pretty steep hillside going down towards the future Celebration Village site. So they've come up with a way to incorporate additional parking on the site itself, the site of the venue, as well as additional on-street parking throughout the development. There is a proposal for a valet parking area for the events that occur. And so this approach, again, lower impact from a development standpoint, and also we believe handles the parking needs for the vast majority of events that we could foresee taking place on the site. So this conditional use is being reintroduced tonight for a first reading with the new plan. We have new, the exhibit on the overhead is actually old. Let me give you the new one.
Yes, Mr. President, while he's doing this, obviously, this is going to be one of the premier attractions in the city, as being the amphitheater. We don't have many amphitheaters in the city, And so working through the details on parking and how that's going to work, I think that's been what most of the work has been with regard to. And Mayor, I just commend your staff, Mac and Chris and Alan, for the hours of work that's gone into making sure that this, if approved, will have appropriate parking. I think the update here is just to make sure that in larger events, they have to have a permit to submit a parking plan. I think the struggle is if there is one, is that with a venue like this, how do you provide enough parking? And I don't know that you can put enough parking on site for a venue like this. So if they're going to do something on a larger scale, there will be a permit involved where they have to make sure they have off-site parking. And
That's
shuttles.
correct.
And is that a good summary of what it is?
It is. This is a very unique opportunity, very unique venue. And again, for the vast majority of activities that we see taking place on this site, including a restaurant component, a retail component, as well as the event space itself, what they have planned to accommodate on site will take care of things the vast majority of the time. There will be those outlier special events where there may be some additional parking needs above and beyond what has been provided in the updated plan that you have. And with that, we believe that the conditions that staff's put in front of you help to deal with that in those rare occasions where we have events that would require parking be used approaching or exceeding 90% of the capacity that they've planned for. So we believe, given the revised plan and the conditions that are in front of you, that we can have a successful venue and be able to plan and accommodate for the impacts.
Mr. President, very quickly, I know several members expressed concern after the planning and zoning approval about kind of a reduced scale of the facility. But and I know from a parking perspective, the on-site parking can handle around 600 patrons. That's the number we're looking at for the on-site parking. But the actual amphitheater can hold many more. And so if they bring an appropriate parking plan, we can, that original 1,200 number shouldn't be a problem, provided they can come up with a good parking plan.
And we have a mechanism in place for special events. We have an application already in place that they can go through that process. And all that is in place to do really is to ensure that, A, we have an appropriate location for that off-premise parking, that we've taken a look at the ingress, egress, and traffic management at that off-premise parking site, and that we have the public safety needs for coordinating people getting in and out in place, locked down, and taken care of.
So again, just to reiterate, the scale of our facility, or the facility that they're building, if this is approved, is what the original scale was stated. The difference is we just had to work through that parking question. And again, I just commend the staff for putting in many hours to come up with the answers, and obviously the engineers as well, for the applicant to get that done. And so I'm hoping that we can move forward on this, because I think it'd be an exciting thing to have in the city.
Thank you for your work on this, Mr. Shaw. Appreciate that very much. Mr. Corley, if you would, please read the resolution.
Yes, as discussed, this resolution 656821 grants conditional use approval for entertainment district for property located in Stadium Trace Village on lot K2A1, Hoover, Alabama.
Thank you. Again, we will meet on December 6th and consider that for a vote. That brings us to the end of our agenda for the evening. Ask if there are any questions or comments from members of the body. Are there any comments from members of the public? Yes, ma'am. Come on down.
KT Thomas, 1426 Scout Trace. I'm here because we have some unresolved issues, and I have a few more questions. On October 12th, 18th, and November 1st, at City Council meetings, 38 individuals made comments about stormwater issues. 19 of the 38 had been reporting those problems for between 1 and 7 years. Now imagine what might have been different on October the 6th and 7th if those problems had been addressed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 years ago. They represent Alcere, that area down Hurricane Branch, Green Valley, Sulphur Springs, Pinedale, South Lake, Hoover Country Club, Patton Chapel, Bluff Park, Little Shades Creek, and Lock Haven. What would a reasonable and prudent person think to know that nothing was done for 7 years? Number two, many residents were told that the stormwater problem was their problem, that it was on private property. Residents have been told to keep the drainage ditches and areas clear on their property. However, that's about 1/3 of the truth of the policy that Hoover has. So what it says in Chapter 12, Section 157 of the Hoover Code about watercourse protection is that residents must keep the watercourse clear and flowing, and that residents are responsible for only for material that originates on their property. It also says that residents are not responsible for things that are blocking watercourses that did not come from their property. So the question is, who's responsible for debris that gets in the watercourse that didn't start on their property? There's a hole in the description, and it seems as though the homeowners shouldn't be held responsible. Jefferson County is oftentimes the source that they're sent to, but Jefferson County says if you live in the city limits, you call the city Public Works Department. When stormwater is draining from a right-of-way onto your property, when there's a drain, ditch, or storm sewer that is clogged, or when the storm sewer lid is broken. So what would a reasonable and prudent person think about that? The focus has been on repairing damage and not on preventing damage. Now, the place that we see prevention begin is when the city, like the Planning and Zoning Commission, approves subdivision plans. And then it is the city's responsibility to monitor during construction and post-construction to make sure that those plans are working. And clearly, with all the damage that's been done, those plans have not been observed over time with good management. One more thing. Hoover states that they are an open government. The city of Hoover exists to serve the citizens and taxpayers in our great community and is committed to being open and transparent. Now, I absolutely agree with that. That's how it should be. But the question is it? There are so many questions about what's been happening for these 7 years that people have been reporting problems and been sent to the county or been told it's their problem because it's on private property, when clearly the Hoover's own code says that they're only responsible for debris that originated on their property. So these are questions that I think we really need to have an answer to. So yes, I want you to be accountable. I want the city to be transparent. Those are perfect things to be. Demonstrate fiscal responsibility. The question earlier, why is the city paying $60,000 for damage in a development that they approved the plan for? That builder or developer is probably responsible for at least part of that. Many of us would like to have a two-way conversation. You know, it's one way here, and we're never going to resolve our issues until we can talk two ways, at least with the people who make these decisions. And finally, then, I would ask that you not only repair, but you prevent the stormwater damage. I'm done.
Thank you, ma'am. On Thursday night, if you'll come back Thursday night, I think you'll be hearing some about remedy and not just repair on Thursday night. So I hope you'll come back then. Any other questions or comments? Hearing and seeing, yes, ma'am. Come on down, please. Give us your name and address. We're glad to hear from you.
Rebecca Ritchie, 4911 Twin Pine Circle. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but I appreciate y'all approving the money for these engineering firms to come out. We did have one come out, he looked at our property and our next door neighbor's property and said they filed a report, but we didn't get to see the report. We don't know what they said. We don't know anything that happened other than that we told them our story and they looked around and took pictures. That's all we know that happened. But in all this, going up and showing them where everything was, we went up to Magnolia Grove, and the pipe up there is about a 24 to 30-inch pipe connected to our 18-inch pipe. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that you can't take that much water and squeeze it into an 18-inch pipe and not expect something bad to happen, which is what happens to our property every time we have a bad rainstorm. We've been fighting this since 2014. This is the first time we've had anything other than doors slammed in our faces. So I hope that somebody will do something to prevent it. Something is wrong at Magnolia Grove. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a water expert, but there is something wrong with either the detention pond or something. Because we never had any problems from 1993 until 2014. So somebody in the city needs to look at that and figure out a way to fix the problem. Because we've already fixed all the pipe that is actually on our property. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ritchie. Any other comments? Hearing and seeing none, I would like to remind everyone that on November 30th, we will have our annual tree lighting ceremony here on the lawn of City Hall, so I hope everyone will join us for that. 5 o'clock, I believe, typical? Maybe. Come at 4 o'clock. You won't be late. 5? Very good. November 30th. Very good. Appreciate everyone's attendance. We're adjourned.